I love the last 4 months of the year. They're my favorite. I love autumn. I love, well, the December part of winter is better than the rest. But yeah, so I was thrilled when yesterday the weather got chilly, overcast, started raining in the morning, and then it drizzled again later. So it was just perfect. And then my day was ruined, and it's carried over into today because I found out that Finchinator has banned gouging fire from Gen 9 OU. So we are going to finish the Finchinator trilogy today because I have assembled a list of every crime he is known to have committed. It took me a while. I went to America for 3 weeks just for this, and we will get right into it after I take a bathroom break because I am very well hydrated and because the weather is nice and chilly. I can finally drink tea and not need a white herb to not drop my special attack by 2 stages. Yeah, this tea is from Russia, actually, courtesy of someone very special. Not Finchinator, I'll tell you that. Anyway, be right back. So, when there's just complete stillness on screen like that, that is some real slow cinema. Something Finchinator does not appreciate, of course. I was very proud when I not only worked slow cinema into a false web gaming video recently, but then I saw people in the comments going like, "Oh, BKC wrote that." That made me very happy. Also, some advice, also courtesy of my special someone, is that when you are flushing the toilet, you should put the lid down before you do that so the bacteria doesn't fly everywhere. So I think my quality of life has increased since I learned about that. Finchinator, on the other hand, doesn't flush at all. So yeah. So gouging fire because I am a big fan of Gen 9 OU, which is well known, just as well as I know everything about the tier and gouging fire in particular. I know that it has a 115 base attack stat, and how could that be broken in Gen 9, right? I was hearing all these tales about, oh, Terra Dragon pushes it over the edge. And I was like, yeah, but then it's not a fire type anymore, so it's weak to ice. I don't know. Speaking of ice, I am waiting for the day where Finch fixes the mechanics because I'm so sick of watching these Gen 9 games where snow comes on the field and then the Pokemon don't take damage. What's that all about? So, Gouging Fire was clearly banned from Gen 9 OU because Finchinator loves stall. And I looked in that thread and I learned, well, no, I didn't learn. I was reaffirming things I already knew, such as that Choice Band, Flare Blitz, and Sun delete stall. I'm pretty sure it Oko's Dundozo, which I think is a water type. So Yeah, that's pretty that's not busted because it has that ability that makes it go faster in Sun, and Sun has to be set by Torkoal or Ninetales. And if we've learned anything from Gen 5 OU, it's that you got to have a better Pokemon, a good one like the Politoed that Finch hugs at night. Anyway, so people were asking me, BKC, do you have beef? And I have to say no, because I had beef in my fridge and then I forgot to either make it or put it in the freezer. So now it's expired and I'm not risking that. So, whoopsie daisies. Now with Finch, the problem wasn't just that he got rid of gouging fire; it was the way that he described doing it with this kind of sadistic glee, kind of like the dinner scene in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where it's the most horrible thing you ever saw, but in a really messed up way, it's also funny. But then you feel, strange for laughing because it's so morbid. And people will say, oh, well, BKC, what about that 91% ban rate? Yeah, when's the last time anything got that high a percentage? I mean, more people wanted to keep Genesect in OU. You don't think those numbers have been fudged, doctored? Not that Finchinator could ever, pose as anything close to a real doctor. Doctor of sucking, maybe. But yeah, the issue I had was that Finch really leaned into his Gen Z status uh, by being just about the least professional guy you ever saw in your life. And I have written down here what exactly he said. He said that when it comes to gouging fire, he couldn't wait to yeet it right out, skirt, skirt. And afterwards, he proceeded to give himself the Andrei Sakharov Freedom Award. So we're dealing with a pretty malignant character here, which is why this is the third video that we've had to make on it, but hopefully third time's a charm. Anyway, so continuing on in non-gouging fire related crimes. Also, most of all, even if gouging fire was broken, which haha, first of all, CTC said it wasn't broken, so are we just going to go against him? Second of all, actually, I almost saw CTC and Blunder when I was in the States, but our schedules didn't align. And I think that's because Finch knew that if we linked up, we would be able to successfully rally the player base against the gouging fire ban. So that's number one. Number two, also that he was messing with our schedules. And number three is that gouging fire is such a great name. I want that in OU. What's the matter with you? So, yeah, non-gouging fire-related crimes. I want to gouge his fire, if you know what I mean. Now that would be a good scene. I was watching this Italian zombie movie the other day, and it was great. It was the most ridiculous thing you ever saw. And my lady came in, and she asked me to explain the completely normal questions, like what's going on here, and I couldn't explain it at all. I just had to say, well, it's from the 80s, it's Italian, and that made sense because it does to me because my brain is all movied out. And she was like, uh-huh. And then one of the zombies got its head caved in with a rock, and she was like, oh, I like that. And I was like, aw. Anyway, fantasies of gouging. Anyway, so non-gouging fire-related crimes, which is a long list. So buckle in for some more slow cinema. Finch went to his ex and told her he has the regenerator ability, so they should give their relationship another try. Anyone who knows Finch's penchant for regenerator stalling should not be surprised by this. What he conveniently left out was that he also teleported over to her. He was not supposed to know where she was, but future sight, And then, obviously, when she said, Finch, get the hell out of my face, then he threatened to scald burn her. So, yikes. Here's a real bad one that offends me personally. Finchinator does not believe in Brat Summer. Now, as much as I love fall, I also can't really reconcile myself with the fact that Brat Summer is over, and it's because of Finch. And he's real gleeful about it, too. He keeps yelling Von Finch. He keeps messaging me that he doesn't have to guess the color of my underwear. Real sick stuff. Um, he lobbied Congress to pass pro stall legislation in all 50 states and Puerto Rico. So that kind of wide reach is pernicious for such a viewpoint to be spread so unilaterally and forced down everyone's throats. Can't have that. But that is just the Finchinator way. Force install and chicken wings alike down our throats. He's also revising significant events in American history to include chicken wings. I don't even know what that's about. That's just him being, yeah. He also has questionable foreign policy. Uh, yeah, Finch, I don't know about that, but somehow I don't think that New Zealand should become the 51st state. But he's like, oh, it's real close by. You just go around like this. So anyway, another thing he did that was just unforgivable. In eighth grade, I really liked this girl. She really liked me. I was like, all right, well, I'll ask her out. And I did, and she said yes. We were together for the course of one weekend. The following Monday, she came to school, and her friends decided, you know what? Her friends were the alternative kind who thought they were better than everyone else. She was great. I don't know why she hung around with that bunch of winners. Anyway, apparently the council had convened over the weekend and decided that I was not cool enough for them. And so she dumped me in front of a lot of people. That was brutal. Anyway, I'm pretty sure Finchinator was behind it. She is now married to a woman. That part Finch had nothing to do with. You know, I'm sure she's very happy. I hope so. Um, do I really? Do I really hope someone who hurt me so badly? Yeah. Anyway, I have it on good authority, speaking of school, that Finch was that kid you knew who bragged about knowing the word anti-disestablishmentarianism, and but he couldn't spell it. He just knew it. Yikes. Finch also shuns the fragile joys in life in favor of a never ending stream of attempted dominance. And I mean, he's really only hurting himself with this. Oh, that's not really true because the people in his life are also suffering. Yeah, it's a tough thing to get past. At the same time, Finch, I mean, at a certain age, you know, you can't keep doing that. You can't keep, you know, you are aware of this kind of thing. I was at Walmart when I was in the States, and I saw him performing a complex series of war cries, congratulating himself for completing the self checkout. He then started beating his chest, and then Naruto ran out of the store without his goods. I think he was doing it just to prove that he could. I was greatly saddened when I was in the States by the news of the deaths of the legendary actors Jenna Rollins and Alan Delon. I would recommend anyone who is not familiar with them to watch A Woman Under the Influence. Astonishing. Jenna Rollins is, for those who don't know, your favorite actress's favorite actress. Incredible. And Alan Delon was the Ryan Gosling of the late 50s and 60s. And, you know, even the 70s too. Yeah. And for him, my favorite is Rocco and his brothers. I mentioned, when I saw Rocco and his brothers, I mentioned it to my grandma because I was like, oh, that came out when my grandma was young. And she was like, "Oh yeah. Who plays the main guy in that?" And I was like, "Alan Delon." And she was like, "Oh yeah, Alan Delon." I was like, "Okay, I know who my grandma liked back in the day." Yeah, Finchinator's bar mitzvah was a source of great controversy because not only were boys becoming men, but men were becoming wolves because he had a werewolf bar mitzvah. He really, really, really loves 30 Rock. Anyway, Finch considers himself a musician, which is funny because his favorite genre of music is the screams of dying players getting stalled out. But what's really irritating about it is that he's that guy who you can't even listen to a song with him because he'll start telling you what the time signature is. Except what's really irritating, he's like, oh, this is in four. Oh yeah, this is 4-4. Yeah, it depends on how you count it. It's in four. And also, it's always Taylor Swift, who he refers to as Slay Tay. I don't know if that's actually a thing Taylor Swift fans say. I just made it up. But I mean, I just heard him saying it rather. So I don't know if that's a him thing or just a Swifty thing. But yeah, I recently watched Lost Highway with my lady because I hadn't seen it in about 3 years. She had never seen it, and we like watching Mr. Dave's stuff together. And intense experience. Not really the most fun of his work, but there was a lot to appreciate. Obviously, I wrote a massive review of it. Actually, stayed up way too late last night doing it because Finchinator made me take longer. Anyway, so I learned that Finchinator was the inspiration for the famous tailgating scene where Robert Loggia, I don't know if you say his name like that, Loggia, whatever, because there's two G's. So. Yeah, so he runs down a tailgater. It's the funniest thing. And he then, beats the guy half to death and screams driving safety information at him. You know how many fucking people were killed last year in highway accidents? You know how long it takes to. It was very informative for me too. And very cathartic because when I was in the States, I was on the highway and there's always that one guy. So, yeah, he just yelled, I want you to get a driver's manual. I want you to study that motherfucker. Anyway, all Finch. Um, yeah, he also was the inspiration for some other of Lost Highway's darker elements. Speaking of darker elements, Finch advocates for Snorlax in Gen 3 OU and says Skarmory isn't that hard to break through if you just have something that 3-hit KOs it. Like HP Fire Metagross or Hydro Pump Swampert or Focus Punch Snorlax. Blood boiling stuff. I'd rather have the Tailgater. Anyway, Finch referred to. I did my thesis on cults or cult psychology rather, and I had a lot of examples, and so I was pretty shocked by when I saw that Finch referred to was he was in the middle of the OU subforum just standing there ranting about cults, and I was like, oh well, it's good to spread awareness about this kind of thing because one of the reasons cult psychology is so pernicious is that it doesn't present itself. Well, first of all, even if it is an actual cult, it doesn't present itself as that crazy. It's like, oh, it sounds pretty good, right? And you can be, very smart, and it's not about being too dumb to fall for it. It's about the fact that it prey on your vulnerabilities. But most of the time, the same tactics cults use are things that sell you other things. Phrased beautifully there, Kev. Finch's. But yeah, like the beauty industry is always gonna force feed you this stuff. Oh, you'll be happier. Oh, you got to look like X Y Z. And it's the same kind of. You can be totally okay with yourself, and then they'll plant that in there, and then say, oh well, they can help me with this. Yeah, so I did my thesis on that, so I'm fairly well informed on the subject, although I haven't thought about it since I finished it. And yeah, Aum Shinrikyo was this group. It was, yeah, they were, they had this attack on the Tokyo subway, which was devastating, unless you ask Finch, who said it was a real mixed bag. Finch also stresses the importance of a healthy diet. Well, okay, that one's actually important. So he gets a pass on that one. But he's also a jaywalker. But he doesn't just jaywalk, he jay skips. Jeez Louise. Speaking of horrifying things Finch just thinks are knee slappers, Finch also thinks that the promise of the freedom espoused by the virtues of the 1960s, selling out, crashing and burning and turning into the most corporate fat cat, awful. Didn't that just bum you out? Yeah, he thinks that's funny too. Recently, I got into a huge argument with a friend of mine because she thinks that Sydney Sweeney is just, the greatest. Nothing wrong with that. I saw Immaculate this year. I thought it was good. I thought she was really good. I thought it was very cool how she really fought for that movie to be made. And I thought the director was very good too. But I'm an Ana de Armas guy, of course. And so me and my friend got in this huge argument because I was like, "Are you out of your mind?" Yeah, Ana de Armas is just. Anyway, I'm pretty sure Finchinator was possessing her and doing all sorts of demon shit. Because usually my friend is a very rational human. I just don't understand how someone can believe something so irrational called psychology. Uh, I also just remembered that I gotta pay my rent, so not happy about that. Um, Thanks, Finch. You know that thing where the algorithm is designed for you to just keep scrolling into infinity? Yeah, who's behind that? When I was in the States, I went to a Red Sox game. I haven't been to a baseball game or really done anything with baseball at all in 10 years. So it was cool. I had a very good time. The real reason I went was because there were these whispers that there was going to be an attack at the stadium because Finchinator's a Yankees fan. So, but what did happen was that there was during like the sixth, seventh inning or something. Then Finch, not Finch, but I heard these guys a few rows behind started yelling "fuck the Yankees," and I was like, "Oh, cool." I agree with this, but I was like, what's prompting it? And the Yankees were getting blown out by the White Sox. It was like 12-1 or something. And my dad explained to me that the White Sox were having like the worst season in history, so it's particularly hilarious. And then I turned around and I saw a guy in a Yankees hat, and I was like, the guy in a Yankees hat coming to Fenway. I mean, really asking for it. So I was pleased to see a guy in a Yankees hat on the at Fenway on the night the Yankees got blown out by the worst team in baseball. So yeah, I think that guy was also Finch, very Finch-esque, Finchley. Um, Yeah. So through a glass Finchley, there was another thing. Oh yeah, there's this story about Derek Jeter. For those who don't know Derek Jeter, because it's baseball and it's American. Don't worry, you don't have to know who he is. He was just a big baseball player, big celebrity in the '90s and throughout the 2000s. Um, Also wound up being a very inefficient defensive player, but he was very flashy, so he was a big hero. Anyway, so there were these stories which were attributed to Derek Jeter that I really think were about Finch, where he would hook up with these girls, and then these girls would say, "Oh yeah, it was really weird because he would just during he would just say yeah Jeet." So what I really think was Finch smeared Derek Jeter's good name, and that really was about him. So yeah. Oh, the other thing was that while I was at the Red Sox game, I was waiting for them to sing "Sweet Caroline" in the middle of the seventh inning, and then they didn't, and I was like, "What the hell?" And then they sang it in the middle of the eighth inning, so I just remembered it wrong. So I'm pretty sure the Finchinator brainworms were at work there, or he changed when they sang "Sweet Caroline" just to mess with me just a little bit. Um, yeah, I saw when I was looking through some stuff that there is a playlist on YouTube called the Rambling BKC Podcast. I don't know who put that together, but thank you very much. I was very flattered. I just needed some good news after all this heinous shit Finch was doing. Speaking of which, he did not appreciate my review of Deadpool and Wolverine, which was, yeah, I was on the longer side, but I thought it was very insightful, and it tried to push the discourse on the film further than just, one of your two positions that you held before you even saw it, which is either, oh, this is just complete slop as usual, or I love this kind of stuff and it's just supposed to be fun. Don't take it so seriously. So I tried to find something in between. Um, yeah, that one bugged me. I'll link it in the pinned comment. So to wrap things up, Finchinator needs to be stopped, topped, all that jazz. And we will end on a positive note because when I was in the States, I went to New York a lot. And I saw a bunch of movies there because New York has a lot of great movie theaters. Kind of like how I go to a lot of great movies here because Prague has a bunch of great theaters. Same in New York. So here are the movies I saw in New York while I was there. I saw Edward Yang's That Day on the Beach for the first time. I was very excited to see it in the theater for the first time, and I just from frame one, I loved it. It's my favorite of Yang's movies, and I have now seen all seven because while I was in the States, I also watched A Confucian Confusion, which I liked, and Mahjong, which I also liked. Um, yeah, one of my film hot takes is that Yi doesn't really. I like it. I think it's good, but it doesn't really hit that stratospheric height that it does for a lot of people. So yeah, I mean, I'll have to revisit it, of course, but yeah, and I also like the Terrorizers. That's a great one. Well, his other big one besides Yi is, of course, A Brighter Summer Day. That one I like. And I like the Terrorizers, but Taipei Story. That's a great one. I really like that one. That's my second favorite, but That Day on the Beach has become my favorite. So I saw that at the Metrograph, where I'd never been before. I also saw The Conversation at the IFC Center. Francis Ford Coppola's best movie for my money. Yes, better than The Godfather. That's right, and Apocalypse Now and Godfather 2, of course. I mean, those are great and everything, but I love The Conversation, and I hadn't seen it since I originally saw it, also like 3 years ago. But it was even better this time around. I think it's extraordinary. Um, yeah, it was one of the two main inspirations for Brian De Palma's Blowout, and which is also an amazing film, and one I actually have on Blu-ray right over there. So I recommend those. The other film is, of course, Blow Up, which I also recommend. Um, so yeah, seeing The Conversation was great. I saw Hot Fuzz for the millionth time, of course, but I'd never seen it in a theater. And it was playing at the Alamo Draft House. I didn't even know there was an Alamo Draft House in New York. I'd always wanted to go to one, so I did. Had a great time. Loved yelling shit at the screen. I just Hot Fuzz is my ultimate comfort. Doesn't matter how many times I've seen it. I actually put it on a few weeks before I went to the States, just because I hadn't seen it for a while and I had needed to pick me up, and I was just smiling like an idiot, even though I know everything that's coming. And yeah, this time, and it was just a few weeks later. Well, I guess I got to go again. Um, yeah, so I just love when during I mean, the whole thing's amazing, but during the climactic action scene, 30, 40 minutes, whatever it is, when the doctor, comes out, and then Nick Frost throws the gun on the ground, and it accidentally shoots him in the leg again. And then they get up, and Simon Pegg goes, "You're a doctor, deal with it." It's like great, and then Nick Frost goes, "Yeah, motherfucker!" Oh, it's so great. Gives me life. Um, yeah, so seeing that with the crowd, joyous. Oh, yeah. I could just go on forever about everything I love about Hot Fuzz. Uh, like when he's telling like his childhood backstory about his uncle who bought him the police car, but then he's like, "Oh, he sounds like a good guy." Oh, he was arrested for selling drugs to students. Oh, probably bought the pedal car with the proceeds. Yeah. And the day before I left, this was my favorite because this is one of the greatest things I will ever see, or you will ever see. Please seek it out. Victor Erice's, I'm saying his name right. The Spirit of the Beehive, which I saw for the first time at the beginning of this year, and it blew me away. This time I got to see it again, not just in a theater, but on an actual 35 millimeter print. Seeing it on film, I mean, it was extraordinary. Even better the second time around. So yeah, and not even Finchinator can take that away from me, although I'm sure he'd try if he thought he could. So, yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I am very happy to be back and making this art again, and I have a lot in store, and I hope you have enjoyed and will keep enjoying and all that jazz. So, I will see you in the next one. Thank you for watching.